Does the government work for us, or do we work for the government? What can history teach us about war and debt? Tonight, the decline and fall of the Roman Empire and the future of America. The Roman Empire began as a kingdom in 753 BC, and by 500 BC it had a representative form of government. A few hundred years later came Julius Caesar, a Roman general, who bucked the Roman Senate and started a civil war that ended up with him as the emperor. By the 2nd century AD, the Roman Empire encircled the entire Mediterranean and went all the way up to Britain. Also by the 2nd century AD, the output from Roman silver mines had peaked. Silver was used to mint Roman currency. It was also traded for silk with India and China. The Romans were duped by their lust for luxury. While silk was perceived as a luxury good by the Roman elites who imported it, it was worth much less than the silver that they exchanged for it. So what did the Roman emperors do once the availability of silver for currency began to decline? They debased their currency. They minted coins with less silver in the coins than the face value of the coins indicated. The Roman government literally stole money from the populace by literally taking the value out of each coin. They couldn't borrow money from China to fund their wars in France, so they operated under the fiction of a debased currency instead. This didn't last very long, and eventually it became evident, it became well known that Roman currency was being debased, and its value sunk like a rock in a pond. Stated differently, the Roman government lied, cheated, and stole from its own people. And when the people discovered this, massive inflation ensued. When the value of the coins they were minting began to eat into the economic power of the Roman elites, they turned increasingly to the military. You see, the Romans had this crazy idea that they could become rich by fighting wars. They actually thought that by taxing people and using the taxes to buy military hardware and using the hardware to conquer foreigners and instilling Roman culture in those foreigners, they, the Romans, would somehow be prosperous. Instead, they spent themselves into a decline they couldn't get out of. The Roman elites had become accustomed to a lifestyle only available to them from cheap labor and government theft. And the masses were kept happy by bread and circuses the Roman emperors gave away with the wealth they had stolen through inflation and taxes. Sound familiar? It should. The United States is the most powerful force in the world since the Roman Empire. We have 900 permanent military installations around the world, and we are going down the same road that the Romans did. We are expanding our empire through wars of choice. We are devaluing our currency. We are allowing the government to bribe us with the money it has taken from us. But unlike the Romans, the Federal Reserve doesn't even pretend the dollar is backed by anything other than the government's word. The government's word. Now, who would trust that? And yet, that doesn't curb the Federal Reserve's ability to debase the currency by printing trillions of dollars of it. What's more, the U.S. government devalues our currency at a rate the most ambitious of Roman emperors could never imagine, because the federal government can also borrow against its future. In the Roman times, there was no borrowing. There was no such thing as credit cards. But the federal government has a credit card. Right now, it has used up its $14.3 trillion line of credit. President Obama wants to extend that for nearly the 100th time, this time up to $17 trillion, so we can go down the Roman road of decline a lot faster. We have wars of opportunity in 5 countries, none of which were declared by Congress. We have a president who tells the people he is bringing the troops home, and generals who don't like it, and economists who advise the president that war is the health of the state. And we have a president who, even as I speak, is dining at the most expensive restaurant in New York City with folks who are paying $38,000 a plate to be with him, whom he once called fat cats, while 1 in 7 Americans is on food stamps and 1 in 10 adults is out of work. Will we learn from history, or will we join the Romans in the dustbin of history, a history of once great peoples who sent themselves into oblivion? Want to spend into oblivion like the Romans? Just raise the debt ceiling and keep the borrowing up. Want to stop the madness? Just say no to more debt. It's up to us. It's up to you. From New York.